international life. And we have 2 more minutes to go. Good evening, Assalamu alaikum everyone. If you are here, please tell us, throw a comment here in the comment box so we know that you're here. And then I'll switch off the music when we are ready to go. Hi, Rafia. Rafia, you will have to do the sound check for us, okay, when we start, and I'll switch off the music. Then once I introduce the guest, you'll have to tell me if you were able to hear him or not, so we can make some changes if required, okay? Okay. Right, so we're going to start now. Thank you so much. Hi, Annie, how are you? Good to see you back. Good evening, Assalamu alaikum everyone. Please keep saying hello to us in the comments if you are here, so we know that you have joined. Thank you so much. So we're going to start now. And if you just joined, Assalamu alaikum again, good evening. Every school claims to prepare students for life, but walk through the corridors long enough and you start to feel it. The pressure, the polish, the performance. We call them great schools, but greatness has become a brand, not a belief. That's why tonight we are unboxing the great school illusion. Because when excellence becomes an act, learning loses its soul. And we don't want that to happen. Joining me is someone who has led with intellect and heart. Dr. Luke, Vice Principal of Doha British School, Qatar. Luke, welcome to Unbox with SG. I would like you to please introduce yourself so people can know more about you.
So first of all, thank you very much for the invitation this evening. Really looking forward to this. I have my coffee in hand as well because I know it's a coffee conversation.
Good.
Which is great. My name is Luke Chaeter. I'm currently the Vice Principal of Doha British School in Khalid. Originally, I was from Wales in the United Kingdom, where I spent 15, 16 years of my career. And then for the last 10 to 11 years, I've been international as well. I've worked in Myanmar, Dulwich. I've worked in Taipei European School in Taiwan, and I've been in the Middle East now in Doha for the last 2.5 years. So hopefully my experience will support the conversations this evening.
Thank you so much, Dr. Luke. And I'm so glad to have you here. And I know that you've been an international school leader, and whatever you are bringing to this conversation is going to actually help all our participants with practical tools, which is what you just said to me, because you know how important these tools are for all our viewers. So thank you so much for being here with us. I'm going to just quickly check my screen again to see if everybody can hear him. Okay. Thank you so much, Sana. So, can someone confirm if they could hear Dr. Luke loud and clear, and or if there is a problem with the voice, then we have to then just take a pause and see what we can do. I No one has mentioned anything, so I am just taking it as if the voice is all clear. So, Dr. Luke, when I chose the word illusion, I didn't mean deceit. I meant survival. We have painted success so perfectly that even we believe it. Schools that look happy, sound innovative, but somewhere the heartbeat is missing. So, what's this illusion made of, and why do we keep feeding it? What's your thought about this word illusion? Because there is a reason why we picked it for our session today.
That's a very, very good question. And I think we are living in an incredibly competitive space, a competitive world, especially particularly when it comes to international schools. It's an incredibly saturated market in particular areas around the world. You look at the growth market, which has happened over the last 15 years in the Middle East in particular. And also I spent further time, further east in Southeast Asia as well, and it's an incredible competitive landscape.
Thank you so much, Dr. Luke. And I agree with you. The illusion that we are living through, I think this is because this is an international market, and there's cutthroat business, and people are, the targets are very important. The targets, when it comes to admissions numbers, that's what the target is that I'm talking about, not the target when it comes to probably, talk about academic performance. But even when we talk about academic performance, we know that we are talking about attainment more than progress. And many times schools do not really, um, they are not able to position themselves as good schools just because their progress was better than their attainment or their achievement. So I think at some point during today's session, I know that we will be talking about that as well. But the very first thing that I want to talk about, what I find tragic, we have turned learning into theater. Lesson plans worthy of Oscars rubrics, sharper than, knives, and yet our students are drowning in achievement but starving for meaning. We don't need better performance, we need thrivers. What's your take on it?
Yeah, again, that's interesting. And again, I would challenge, are students better equipped now than they were 10, 15 years ago? I don't know. I think there's lots of agents which are happening outside of school, particularly social media. I was having a conversation with a colleague today. Would I like to be a teenager living now with all the social media? Probably not, because there's an awful lot of pressure which is happening at the moment. But also back to what you said previously, there is a big race to make sure that we prepare students for universities all around the world.
Correct.
Now, is that the right message that we should be having for our students? Should we be preparing students for an increasingly challenging future? A statistic for you, for instance, is that by 2030, 65% of the world's population will be over the age of 65. So we've got an awful lot of work going on with AI. However, when we're looking at markets such as healthcare and so on, particularly looking after those aging population, are we equipping our students today to support what is going to be happening in the future?
Correct. So, Luke, there is one thing that I'm always concerned about, since you just spoke about the university admissions, and you talked about the reason why the results are so important. Um, wh- what exactly is the relevance of all of this with the pedagogy? Because the teachers are using the same old methods, and we are still calling those schools great schools. What exactly needs to be different? Have you tried something in your school recently that is transforming your school altogether when it comes to teaching methodology or lesson planning, or anything that the teacher is doing, in fact, in the classroom to create a different kind of environment?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think lots of schools are doing this. I'm not saying that necessarily the school I'm currently in is leading, but lots of schools are going down the route. We need to become, I think, as Now, crazy statistic is that we know more about space than we know about our oceans.
That is so
We
true.
know more about our oceans than we know about our brains. However, what we do know about the mind is that, we need to ensure that our pedagogy is driven through recall, through structure, making sure that we are learning and building learning mechanisms, steps at a time, instead of trying to drive content. So for us, we need to be evidence informed. Our pedagogy needs to make sure that, first of all, our teachers understand the curriculum. Secondly, we need to make sure that our teachers are maximising learning opportunities by making sure that they have links to their core lessons to other lessons as well. We need to make sure that we are unlocking learning potential so that our teachers are using recall and retrieval practice. And by looking at all these different elements, that's what we need to drive our learning so that our students can succeed. I think probably over the last 10 to 15 years, we've been so focused on getting content into students, we're not necessarily supporting pedagogy behind how we can do this successfully.
And that is so true.
Debate at the moment. Yeah, there's a big debate at the moment. Skills, knowledge. But actually, you have to have knowledge in order to develop your skills. So there is no debate really. We have to have a good foundational knowledge for students to thrive.
So true. Dr. Luke, since we spoke about teaching methodology and we spoke about how the teachers should be transforming their own skills to instill the skills in their students, obviously professional development plays an important role in this. But what we have seen that the professional development is, I mean, I've been in the international market for last 20 years now and or more, and I've been seeing or observing the same topics, the same titles of the workshops. I There is nothing that excites me because everything is repeated so many times that even it can't motivate teachers anymore. So what's your opinion on it? Like, how should we bring that radical change in professional development? Because unless that change is there, I mean, I'm literally disappointed right now because I can recall all of those topics that I have attended, and I have attended those topics every single year with different providers, thinking and hoping that something new is coming to me as a teacher or as an educator. But I haven't seen anything that exciting. The very first time that something got excited, um, uh, that was multiple intelligences theory. When it came out in 1980s, it was very popular, very fashionable to quote that and to use that, and some teachers actually tried implementing that. And then the second time that I really got excited was when I got introduced to IB and inquiry based learning. And since then I haven't seen anything new in the market or in the professional development scenario. So what is it that you have noticed? Maybe I didn't get the opportunities that you have. Perhaps you can mention something that can actually bring people to that positivity that yes, there is something new still happening and people can still, be a part of it. Please share your experiences.
So first of all, I think you've got to look about, is it to do with professional development or is it to do with experience? Now, if I was going to ask you the question, what do we expect from a high quality lesson or a learning environment in school? It's all about building skills in those students and that they evaluate. Now, the problem with professional development, and I don't actually like the word professional development, I prefer the word growth.
I like that. I like that very much.
And the reason being is that traditional professional development is you go on a course, you listen to a couple of high quality speakers, you go back to the classroom, you try and implement some of those strategies, school gets on top of everyone, and then within 2 or 3 weeks we revert back to where we were before. So I don't necessarily think it's about the different topics, I think it's about the way in which the professional growth is conducted. So something that we're doing in Doha British School and we're incredibly proud of is that we partnered up with evidence-based education and the Great Teacher Toolkit. We're actually the first school as well in Qatar and I believe in the Middle East where we're using ITCAN, which I believe ITCAN in Arabic, and apologies for this, but I believe ITCAN in Arabic translates to like mastery. So we want to make sure that our Arabic teachers as well as our teachers from all around the world, have the same sort of place, the same sort of foundation, so that our pedagogical approach throughout our school is the same. Now, with evidence-based education, what we are doing then is that there's programs, there's courses, there's experiences, there's resources which teachers are utilizing every single day. But what we're saying is, try a little bit of the evidence, go into the classroom, have a go at it, like we expect of our students, reflect on it, refine it, evaluate it. If it works, great, let's continue. If it doesn't, don't worry about it. We'll continue to carry on. Now, what we have found, which is absolutely game-changing, is something that we use is called learner surveys. So this year, and we've got around about 165 teachers in our school, so it's a big school. This year, all of our teachers have done surveys with their classes. And those surveys can support students from 5 years of age up to 18 years of age. And it looks at the 4 dimensions of learning, the 4 pieces of evidence which shows high quality learning. So first of all, the first dimension is understanding the content. The second is supporting high quality learning. The third is maximizing learning opportunities. And the fourth is unlocking learning. Now, by asking students what their experiences are in the class, teachers then can have a look at their surveys and find out what the strengths are and what the areas for them to improve, to grow. And their professional development or growth is driven by the reactions of the students. So ultimately, at the moment, we've got around about 55 to 60 different pathways of professional development, which is happening in our school. And the reason we're doing that is because when it comes to professional development or growth, sometimes it's what the school wants. But what we're trying to do is make sure, first of all, that every single teacher realizes why they're on that professional growth journey. Secondly, we're giving them the autonomy to try things out. And finally, we're giving them the professional development which grows their competency. This goes back to Decky's self-determination theory, that if you're going to do something, you're more likely to try really hard at doing it because it's going to have a positive impact for yourself, instead of sending teachers on different lots of PD, which doesn't necessarily relate to their everyday practice.
That is so true, Dr. Luke. And I think you did bring that positivity that I was hoping for. And if there are viewers, and among viewers, if there are school principals or school leaders who are listening right now, you would definitely find this very, very helpful, because if this can happen in one school, I can guarantee you it can happen in any school. There was once when I transformed a school within 6 months, and it was a failing school. Our objective was not to bring the school's ranking in inspection to a better ranking. That wasn't really the objective. The objective was the the vibe when teachers come to school and they don't find anything interesting, they don't find anything motivating, and they don't learn anything, they don't engage, and then that reflects in their teaching methodology as well then. So the aim and intention for that transformation that happened within 6 months was that the teachers own their job, and the teachers come to school as if they didn't come, they won't be able to breathe. And we were so lucky that we were able to do it. And if this was not one-man show anyway, it was a team effort. There was the entire leadership team that was a part of it, because it creates ripple effect. If the leader of the school doesn't believe in these things, and no matter if you keep offering these regularly, it's still not going to have any impact, because there's no belief. And as I said, it has a ripple effect. People would know that you don't believe in it, and they will be able to see through it, and then there is no belief shown from any of the team members. That's the real problem.
Yeah, absolutely. And apologies for cutting in, but exactly what you're saying there when it comes to professional growth, because we like the growth, because you build in lifelong learning. We think the semantics around that is really, really important. But also, I think there has to be the emotional intelligence in schools as well. So go back a year and a half, 2 years ago, we had some learning communities, and the learning communities were working well, but then we had feedback from members of staff, and they actually felt like in order to take this to the next level, they wanted to do things which would maximize impact for their students. So I think sometimes, again, to bring that psychological safety as a leadership team to show strength and vulnerability, it's good to take that on board. And if you can show that you're trying to refine things, that's when you're going to get people on board as well.
Absolutely, absolutely true. Dr. Luke, I just have to acknowledge all the people who are coming in from different channels. So I do see the participants who are here from YouTube, and some are joining us from LinkedIn, and I can see my Facebook buddies as well. So thank you so much for joining us. If you are coming in just now, let me quickly give you a little, background. We are talking about the great school illusion, and what we are basically talking about, that the schools that we feel are very good because the buildings probably are brilliant and it looks like a 7-star premium quality facility. uh, is it really a great school inside, and what makes it a great school? So a great school does not really require a building. That's what we are really getting into. More clearly, I wanted to talk about it, that if your building is 7-star and your service is 2-star, it doesn't make any difference in children's life. And the service is to the children. Service is not to anybody else. That's what you need to remember. So if your children are not getting the kind of learning opportunity they should get in the school, then you should rethink the whole structure of your school, because it probably is not the good school, or maybe you are still living under that illusion that you are a great school. So that's where we are teasing you and challenging you to rethink how you are doing some certain practices in your school and what needs to change. And Dr. Luke has actually shared very good um, programs that he is in fact using in his school at the moment, and they're working well. I do have another question here. Dr. Luke, when you and I first connected, I remember you were very passionately talking about action research. Do you want to bring that back into this conversation?
Apologies, you just broke up slightly there. Could you just repeat the question, please?
Sure. I said when we first connected, do you remember that you were very passionately talking about action research? Do you want to bring that back in the conversation?
That's right. When it comes to action research, so we talk about emotional intelligence, but we also have to be culturally intelligent as well. So there's an awful lot of research out there, high quality research. John Hattie, everybody knows about John Hattie.
True.
And all the research and great learning power and so on. But I think as schools sometimes we turn that research into initiatives, but we should look at the research and see how it adapts into our schools. So I know, for instance, that there are certain pieces of evidence that would work really well in order to motivate our students and also our teachers, but not necessarily work in other schools. You have to have a really good awareness of where your school is in their current learning continuum. So to bring it all back, and I thought it was really interesting, I saw a comment saying that what we're doing in classrooms is probably 40, 50 years behind what's going on in other areas of business, for instance.
Mm. Right.
What we really, really need to do is make sure that when you're in a school, you have a clear definition of what high quality learning and teaching looks like. Now, if you're in a school that has just started, the definition of high quality learning and teaching will be very different to a school that's 25, 30 years old, where lots of systems are in place. So the key thing is, in order to get everyone on the bus, sitting on the right seats on the bus, you need to make sure that you've got every single teacher who is aware what high quality learning and teaching looks like in your school. Now, high quality learning and teaching might look different in your school as it does to mine, depending on the technology,
so true.
depending on the time, and so on. But you have to have that definition nailed down, have it on your flag of the school, so that everybody knows that when you come to your school, this is the experience that you as a teacher will have, and you as and the students within your school will have as well. I think that's really important. I think you need to make sure that as high quality learning organizations, you have to live every single day with your vision, your mission, and your purpose at heart. And that is very, very important. Now, if I look around the world, lots of visions and missions, we talk about innovation. But what is innovation? Does that mean technology? Does innovation mean about making sure that students go into the wider world and have got a good understanding of finances? You don't know, but you must be explicit that if you come to our school, this is what is really, really important to us. And then in order for that school to thrive, the community has to buy into your guiding statements.
So true. I would take away from this session, Dr. Luke, the way you have explained the relevance of vision, mission, and philosophy. Because many times schools are doing so many things that are not even aligned with their vision or mission. And this is a good reminder for everyone. If you are working in a school, as a leader or as a teacher, in any position, I think you should go back and check your school vision and mission and see how you are actually reflecting that through your practices on daily basis, and you will find out that there are gaps. And it's good that you will find out that there are gaps, because that means you will now find some solutions to bridge those gaps, and that's how we start this journey. There is another thing, Dr. Luke, that I am concerned about. I should use the word concern because people may have different opinion about it. It's the terminology that we use so often. It's called excellence. We have polished it so much that it is blinding. Schools chase it, leaders market it, teachers fear it. But excellence, as we have defined it, has become the cage. What would happen if no one was chasing excellence? If we unlearn it altogether, what is it that then we will be doing in our school if we are not chasing excellence anymore?
Sorry, you broke up again slightly.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Let me just ask quickly the participants. Are you all there? Can you please confirm if you can hear us? If there is a problem with the internet. Yeah. So I was talking about excellence. I'm saying that excellence is a word that everybody is showcasing these days, and nobody knows what that is. So, what is your take on it? I feel that it is a cage and it stops schools from actually making the real improvement or the real impact. What if we unlearn this word? Will there be another word that we would be then chasing? Or do we really need to chase anything? What is the real word that we have to chase if we really have to chase something?
That's a very, very good question. When I think of excellence, I think of perfectionism. And I think perfectionism and excellence makes us as schools risk averse. And I think if we want to be innovative, it requires that we take risks, and excellence actually sometimes blocks that. We need to move away from the having all the answers type of a school because we're excellent and people automatically think that you're doing everything right, to asking better questions. Um, so, first of all, for me, excellence is all about, when it comes to education, making sure that the students we serve are prepared to go out into the wider world and make a positive difference. And let's be honest, in this conversation, the world at the moment isn't in a particularly good place. So we need to make sure that our students today go out to the wider world, make a positive difference, and are real change makers. Also, I think the word excellence has got a boundary. I think the right word that we need to have is challenge. And I think in education, we need to challenge ourselves consistently to make sure that we as educators can be the best we possibly can. We can showcase our professional growth to our students, and that our students then grow from the fantastic experiences that they have within the classroom. So I think it's all about challenge for me. And I like the way in particular that CIS at the moment are doing their accreditation, because their accreditation and the way in which they go into schools, they've got teachers who are in classrooms, they've got leaders who go into other schools, they go through the accreditation process as a learning experience. I think accreditation should be about learning and looking at strengths, how we can share those strengths with other schools, but also looking at areas for improvement and which schools we can go to in order to cross-pollinate to make sure that we're all delivering the best experiences for all of our students. Going back to an earlier conversation that we just had, where we said about competition, I think competition is great, but ultimately we should be learning from each other, because we all have the same goal, where we want our students to go out to the wider world and make the world better.
You know, you just reminded me one more time. I always wonder, why are we having this huge community of LinkedIn, yet nobody talks to each other in order to collaborate? when people usually come to your inbox, they are either selling their services or their um, marketing strategies, or it's a job request that they want to apply for a job and they have a question, or they just want to share their CV, which is fine. I mean, it should be one of the purposes as well, but that shouldn't be the only purpose of LinkedIn. It's a huge community, and I have around more than 6,000 followers there. But how many people actually look at my questions or my posts, or attend these lives? Not that I'm complaining, I'm not complaining at all I'm saying is that there is a general culture of not actually collaborating, not actually becoming a part of learning community. And when you actually create a learning community, people think that's a pressure on them, that's a burden on them. Oh, one more thing. So this that whole idea of learning community, which is why I originally joined LinkedIn, I'm not finding it
Yeah.
anymore. What's your take on
Yeah.
that?
No, I agree with what you're saying, and I collect the analogy of the bee, the bumblebee, cross-pollinating, going
Yeah,
from flower to flower. I think that's
correct.
what LinkedIn, and I think that's what good schools should be doing. And something that we utilize at the moment, the buzzword is AI. We know AI is changing the world. It's changing the world for the better, and in some areas, it's not changing the world as we had hoped. But we're actually using something called no more marking by comparative judgment. Now, when you're in international school, sometimes you could be quite isolated. But if we wanted to find out how well our students are doing in the domain of writing, we're using comparative judgment where our students are writing to a prompt, they're putting that up into the cloud. Then we've got about 2,500 teachers from all around the world supporting the marking of this. We get our results back, and we can see where schools are all around the world, which schools are doing very, very well in that area, and which schools aren't as strong as other schools. Now, for instance, we're a school in Doha, and we're pairing up with schools in Malaysia and Singapore, where we're looking at how are they supporting their students writing across the school, what can we learn from them, and there's schools in the UK and South America who are coming to us and asking for us for support. So straight away, again, going back to that cross-pollination, yes, schools are very protective to make sure that their students have outstanding results. But unless we work together, it's going to be negative for everyone. So we need to work together, and we need to cross-pollinate our practice. We need to look at each other's strengths, and we all need to learn together. If that's what we expect from our students, that's what we should be expecting as professionals as well.
Well, absolutely. That is absolutely true. The reason why I brought in LinkedIn, because I know I've been on LinkedIn for more than 10 years now, and or maybe more. I can't remember when I joined, to be honest. But what I'm seeing, even though the all the jobs that I scored were in fact offered to me through LinkedIn, I didn't apply for those jobs. So all of those international jobs that I had were through LinkedIn, where somebody found me and offered a job, and we took it from there. So I know that it's a good tool, but what I'm seeing is just because there is so much of dependence on ChatGPT or on OpenAI right now, and we all know that these tools can actually give you the wrong answer. Sometimes those answers are not correct, and there is a lack of human experience there. They are collecting information from everywhere, and it doesn't need to be necessarily the correct information that they're collecting. So the quality of that information is still very questionable, I guess. So that's why learning community, the need for learning community is never going to be um, over. It's always going to be needed. We should always think of having our learning clusters. If we don't want to reach, like, I understand that people in Bahrain may not need to look at Australian curriculum, but maybe they do. And people from Oman may not need to look at British curriculum, but maybe they do, because there is always something that we will pick up and say, you know what, if I try it in my school, it will work, because I know the potential of my students and I know the potential of my teachers as well. But I think that effort is, it's restricted in a manner that, oh, what will happen if we will fail? I think it's more like not just protecting the excellence, that, oh, we want to keep the good strategy just for our students because we want better results, but it's also because we don't want to expose our failure to other people. And I think something that needs to happen is all schools need to get that courage that if we don't understand something, if we don't know something, maybe we should probably reach out and ask for help, because there are students sitting in the classrooms who deserve the right kind of knowledge, skill, and attitude in the classroom coming from the
And I think,
teachers to them. Uh,
yeah, and I think the key word there, and apologies for interrupting, I think more now than ever, we need to show vulnerability. And I think vulnerability is a really strong professional
it
characteristic.
it
If you
is.
show you're vulnerable, it shows that you want to continue to grow. And yet we're still battling where people don't want to take those risks. It doesn't matter if you make a mistake, as long as you learn from it. And I
Yes.
think vulnerability is an absolute key trait. And that's something that I would like to look at here when I'm interviewing people, when I'm looking at teams. If people are vulnerable, they're the types of people I want to work with, because I make multiple mistakes every single day. But you've got to learn from them.
True. Dr. Luke, we wanted to talk about emotional intelligence in leadership as well. In fact, we have been running a series. I have another guest, Mr. John Berry, who has been, running this series with me, and we have three more sessions to go. In fact, and we've been talking about self-awareness, self-regulation, motivation, and I think there are two more things that we are talking about in order to cover up that series of emotionally intelligent leadership. Every illusion needs a director, and in schools, that is the school leadership. Too often, we wear authority like an armor instead of empathy like insight. The moment leaders start performing certainty, the whole school joins the act. What does emotionally intelligent leadership look like to you?
That's a great question. Now, I'm going to sort of ask you the question back as well, because hopefully I know myself pretty well, especially over the last couple of years. Now, my tell when I get stressed is that I scratch my wrists, my face becomes red, and sometimes I'll start playing with my eyebrows. That's a tell. Now, that's emotional understanding from me. Now, what I'm trying to get from this is to be an emotional intelligent leader, you have to know your team. You have to do the walks around the corridors. You have to have those conversations. Now, a lot of work which I did for my PhD wasn't just about emotional intelligence, it's about being culturally aware. Now,
Correct.
have you heard the term, I have an open door policy?
Hmm.
Now, from my research, there's no such thing as an open door policy. Now, the reason being is that in my school, there are 19 different nationalities of teachers. So 89 nationalities of students, but there are 19 nationalities of teachers. So I know there tends to be teachers from the Western Hemisphere. If they've got an issue or there's something that they want to share with you, they will probably come to the leader. However, it tends to find out through research that if teachers come from places such as China, Malaysia, Singapore, anywhere like that, they're less likely to come and see you.
Hmm.
So if you're an emotionally intelligent leader, you have to be a culturally intelligent leader and
True.
know your staff. In that way, by walking the corridors, you're more likely to have those high quality conversations with those people who would necessarily want to come to your door. And at the same time, making sure that you give people the space to come to you as well. So it's that balance. And being emotionally intelligent, first of all, is making sure that your calendar in your school is spread out. Everybody knows what's coming up. You've got 3 or 4 week lead-ins. And as an emotionally intelligent leader, know when to put the pedal down when we need to increase the workload, and also have that temperature check of when things are a little bit more stressful, when to navigate the situation to ensure that teachers and members of staff continue to thrive.
Hmm.
That's what emotional intelligence is for me. Both the psychological safety, but also the cultural awareness of a leader.
That is so true. We did discuss in our the very first session that we had for our leadership series. My guest and I, we did discuss our emotional triggers as well, and what our blind spots are. So when you said that you scratch your eyebrows, or I remember what I shared, and if the participants were attending that session, they would know. But I would just repeat, I usually have my hair tied up, and that means that I'm stressed or I'm I need a little bit of strategy to bring me back in that mood. So usually that is something. I can't leave my hair open if I'm feeling emotionally um, weakened in that moment.
And I think as leaders, you need to walk the corridors. You need to have those corridor conversations. It's incredibly important. You have to get to know the people that you work alongside with.
So true.
I never ever say people work for us. We are as a team. We're in it together. I think that's really important. And over the last 5 to 6 years, it's been refreshing to hear the whole philosophy around coaching conversations. So I think being emotionally intelligent sometimes is having those coaching conversations, not those direct conversations. If somebody comes to you for some advice, whereas probably 5 or 6 years ago, I would give them the advice in the guise of this is what I would do if I was in your shoes. But what I tend to do now is map it all out and get them to start making the decisions. If they start making the decisions with a little bit of guidance, then emotionally they feel more secure. And actually, you're developing a culture which wants to have a go, and you're developing a really honest culture that isn't over reliant on leadership to make those crucial conversations, because every conversation is a necessary conversation, but it should be a guiding conversation. Because every time I speak to a student, if I'm speaking to a student, I know that the conversation I'm going to have with them shapes their day and possibly shapes the next week, and possibly shapes the way they feel for the next year or so. So we have to, as leaders, make sure that the conversations we're having are emotionally intelligent, because we know they're going to be more impactful after they've left you. And
True.
that's really, really important to understand.
So true. Dr. Luke, I have some questions on my screen from the viewers, and I'm going to pick them, and then we can see how we are going to respond. So here I see the very first question that came a while ago. Do you think the traditional school model still serves the needs of the future, or has it become an illusion that limits innovation and real learning? I think we did cover it, but do you want to go through this again so we can kind of wrap up?
That's an incredibly interesting question, because I think again it depends on you look at the culture narrative, you look at the culture of the ways in which schools are set up in other areas of Asia to where they're set up in different parts of the world is completely different. Are classrooms set up to make sure that students go out to the wider world and make a positive difference? In a traditional setting, probably no. However, you can utilize it as long as you're utilizing feedback from your students, from your team, then I think you're going in the right direction. Now, lots of people always ask me, how can we ensure that we're making sure the students are ready for an incredibly challenging world? One thing that slightly annoys me these days, we talk about 21st century skills. Now, actually, the students who are coming into our schools at 4 years of age, and by the time they leave our school at 18 years of age, we're literally almost going to be halfway through the 21st century. It's going to be 2050 when you look at the time frame. So talking about 21st century skills all the time maybe is a little bit outdated. But what we can do, we can look at the world now, if we're an IB school or we're an A-level school, and we can try and always navigate the curriculum so that we're always reacting to what is happening now. So by the time the students go through the school, they'll always be up to date with what is happening in the world.
So true.
So at the moment, there's an awful lot of pressure on financial literacy. So we've partnered up with someone called Squirrel Education, and this is a wonderful tip for all your listeners. Squirrel Education is a free resource. We've got students from 7 years of age all up to 14, 15 years of age on an online platform where they're looking at mortgages, they're looking at utility bills, they're looking at how much they're looking at interest rates on credit cards, because these are the things which students need to know when they go into the wider world at the moment.
Yes.
If that changes, we need to manipulate our curriculum, but we should always be one step ahead. What is happening now for those students at 18 years of age, and always backward map it to those students who are 4 or 5 years of age. So when things are constantly changing, we're always navigating our curriculum to make sure that the students are prepared for the world at now. We don't necessarily know what's going to happen in 2 or 3 years' time. But what we do know is what's happening now and potentially in the next 6 months. Look at the advancements in AI at the moment. We don't know what's going to happen in the next 4 or 5 months when it comes to AI. That's quite scary. But we always need to manipulate our curriculum with what's going on now, make sure that we backward map it. Going back to the question of traditional classrooms, we have to work on the evidence that we know now. We have to make sure we've got retrieval practice. We've got to make sure that we're maximising learning opportunities. So if, for instance, in a numeracy lesson, we're looking at fractions, where else can we bring fractions alive in the rest of our curriculum? Can we utilise it in science? Can we utilise it in geography? These are the types of skills that we need to do, and probably cross-pollinate core subjects in our other areas. That is absolutely key.
I think you did cover the question that one more participant had. What is the one skill schools should prioritize most for a world dominated by AI? And how should school leaders equip themselves to handle this? You did speak about AI. Let me see if there is a similar question so we can save time.
I will say on that one as well.
Sure.
Again, going back to the World Economic Forum, which again, for those listeners out there who aren't up to date with it or need to have a look, go on Google, look at World Economic Forum. They come out with their papers every single year. We are being dominated by AI, but we need to make sure that our students have compassion, can collaborate with each other, and have got really good communication skills. Because all of these areas are unfortunately being minimized at the moment. And yet, when you look at the top blue chip companies in the world, when they come for interviews and when they want to have conversations with people who potentially could work in their organizations, they want to make sure that communication skills, oral communication skills, are strong. And unfortunately, that's starting to decline because of the overuse of AI, making sure that they can collaborate with people. Now, what have we seen over the last couple of years? And I almost bumped into someone today as I was walking the door because they were on their mobile phone, they didn't know what was going on, and they almost walked into me. And we've got to make sure that so it's communication, collaboration, and compassion. And these are the three attributes that the World Economic Forum at the moment is saying are conducive for students when they're going out into the world of work because they're diminishing.
Well, I do understand communication will be very easily understood by all the viewers here, but compassion is something, even collaboration, because we, in our own schools, we try our best that the collaboration is taking place, even if we are not doing the, the outside of the schools or external collaboration, but the inside of the school, it is still happening, and principals and teachers, they're really making an effort for that. But compassion is something that is not just cultivated by the schools or educators. It has to, the other side of compassion has to come from the parents and the wider community as well. So I think you very rightly you said that it needs to be on every school's agenda, and how to take it forward, how to make sure that this skill is very, very important, and it is part of your improvement plans, or it's part of your strategy, it's part of your vision, because that's what will be needed in the era of AI. You're talking to someone every day, and I've seen parents talking to AI now that the audio version is already out. It's been a long time now, but I've seen some parents who are actually telling AI to speak to their children and answer their questions. I'm worried about that as well. So I think compassion is the word here that needs to be carried forward, especially when we are planning.
And I think as well, again, we have to be very, very careful, but some of the most exciting things which happen in international schools and schools generally isn't necessarily tech focused. It's about engaging with the community, having those community days, getting the parents in, getting people, some excited speakers. We've just been doing some fantastic medical interviews, mock interviews with our sixth form students, which is superb. We've got relationships with hospitals, so hospitals are coming in because obviously October is talking about it's Cancer Awareness Month. So it's working with places around the world which aren't as fortunate as us, because you tend to find working in international schools, people are very, very fortunate, but we have to make sure the compassion is that we're in a position where we can help others. And I think that is really, really important, because I think the world, unfortunately, as I said, can be quite selfish, but we need to make sure that the students who go to these top performing international schools go out and, again, I keep saying it, make a positive difference and help those people who are less fortunate.
True. I have a comment for you, Dr. Luke. Sarah is saying, Dr. Luke brings a refreshing honesty and global perspective. His reflections on the evolving purpose of schools are eye-opening. So I just wanted to convey that to you.
Well, thank you, Sarah.
Yeah, and then we have, let me see if there are some more questions here. Yep, there's another one that says, okay, yeah, now it's on the screen. Very interesting tip, Dr. Luke give, corridor walks that you just mentioned. I think that's going to be a big hit. And then there were conversations as well that you were talking about, those critical conversations that need to happen with the teachers and the way they should be happening. I think people are really finding that beneficial. Let me take us back to our...
And
Sure.
apologies for jumping in there, because I think that's a really important point. But we also need to think about when we're looking at lessons. Now, when people look at lessons, people sometimes go in with a clipboard. This is traditional. Go in with a clipboard. They sit at the back. They observe what the teacher is doing, and not necessarily looking at what the learning takes place. So big changes that we've had within our school is we do learning walks where a couple of times over the year we just go through our different years, touch base, find out what's going on in our classrooms, spend 3 or 4 minutes, that's all, go into 6 or 7 classrooms to see the consistency of the pedagogy. Sometimes then we have, so those are our walkthroughs, then we have our learning walks where we spend a little bit more time, and also you can go into your full observation. But I think in order to have an assessment of what's going on in your school, you have to use a lot of different metrics. They don't have to be high stakes all the time. Again, as you're walking along the corridors, having your conversations with the teachers, having your conversations with the students, which are eye-opening sometimes. Who are the most honest people within a school? The students. They will tell you what's working well, and they will tell you the improvements. They'll tell you quite straight to your face, and I think that's important. But also surveys. I think surveys are really important. Get your stakeholder surveys out. Speak to your parents. Speak to your governors. Get all that information together, analyze it, because every day, or should I say, schools have so many people involved in them. You get so many different perspectives. Look at the perspectives and start working through them and come up with a bit of a plan. Our school improvement plan is based on stakeholder feedback, and that's really, really important. Our most important stakeholders, obviously, are students, followed by our teachers and our parents.
That is so true. And I don't know, because I know some of the schools, actually, the people who are joining us in this podcast, I know some of these people, they're coming from schools where, even though I did read something from Kiran where she said evidence-based data, and she spoke about surveys and results and all, all of that. But there are schools, and I know you're sitting here in the audience, that your schools are not actually doing that. I think you should start doing it. Try it one time, and you will see how amazing that whole exercise is, and it's actually giving you the correct method or the correct way to move forward. Because sometimes we are trying to hit all our targets blindly. We just don't know what the real method should be followed, what the real pathway is. So if you are a believer of involving stakeholders in giving you feedback, I think that is going to actually put your school towards the improvement pathway anyway. So try that. Then I want to pick this comment. It's not a question, but it's a comment. And he's saying, I think sometimes schools and administration focus more on lecture plans or lesson plans and paperwork, but the focus on children becomes secondary. And that is so true. I've seen that. You have seen that. And I was actually talking to one of the educators that I'm a big fan of, the way she makes learning experiential in her school with the limited resources that she has access to. Um, it is just phenomenal. It's amazing. But one day she posted a video, and in that video, or I believe that was the picture or a video, where it was a handwritten lesson plan. And I asked her, I said, did I not tell you how to use AI in creating your lesson plans and then just working as a person who is revising or editing it and aligning it with your vision or your actual objective, and it will save you time instead of you handwriting a lesson plan? And she said that's a requirement in that school, that they still have to handwrite those lesson plans. I think we are not just looking at the higher end of the schools. I worked with some premium schools as well. Dr. Luke has worked probably with some top-notch premium schools, and perhaps he is already working with one. What we are talking about, we're talking about the other side of education as well, where there are schools who are still trapped in those traditional methods of lesson planning and all those things. And I think those have to change as well. It is easy to convince a school that is already investing a lot of money in their teachers' development and resources to it is easy to convince them to do things more effectively and more smartly than the schools that are not exposed to all of those things yet. So thank you for sharing your comment, because it's bringing me back to that colleague of mine who is still handwriting those lesson plans when there is actually absolutely no need for that. That time could have been well spent with the family, to be honest, instead of just sitting and writing all those lesson plans. If you were teaching 4 lessons a day or 5 lessons a day, imagine how many lesson plans you are writing. So, yeah, I mean, I hear you. I hear you. And I feel for you. That's what I can say. But try to convince your management, show them the magic of AI and how it can generate those lesson plans for you if you feed it with your curriculum, your textbooks content, which is readily available these days online. All the textbooks basically are coming with online packages as well, so it shouldn't be a problem. But I think you have to make your case to save that time for your family, because you do need that family and work balance as well to keep you motivated as a teacher. So it's very important. Dr. Luke, any uh, take on that?
No, I agree with you, and we've been trialing AI, and maybe a little bit more traditional, where it's very difficult because you'd like to tailor. No class is the same. Learning isn't linear. In order to get to this destination, you could take different routes, and I think it's the same within the classroom as well. But one tip I do have, first of all, is we have a no hands up sort of rule within our school. So our students don't put their hands up, because we either have lollipop sticks out or we just have randomized selection when it comes to asking questions. That keeps the students on their toes, and I think that's a really, really good indicator to see if what your plan is actually working. But another tip I think is Anthropic. And so I'm not sure if you're familiar with Claude.ai, but Claude.ai is a very, very good artificial intelligence large language model, and actually it's just come out as slightly more accurate when it comes to instead of ChatGPT. So anyone who's listening, have a look at Claude.ai, which is CLAUDIE.ai. Have a little play with it, and from an educational perspective, when it comes to looking at supporting curriculum and potentially lesson plan ideas, it's really, really powerful, and it's free.
Dr. Luke, you mentioned earlier a financial literacy program that is free and online, and now you're mentioning this one. I'm not sure if people could get the actual word. If they did, well, very good. But if they didn't, if you would go back kindly to the podcast where all the comments and questions you will find on my LinkedIn page, could you just drop those 2 resources there so they can look into it with the correct link instead of trying to figure out what was said?
I could put that on there. And another good tip as well, I would say, is something called evidence-based education, which is the Great Teacher Toolkit. We talk about action research, and this is basically looking at is becoming evidence informed, and if you can use that within your classroom, you're going to be fine.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Dr. Luke, for your conversation with us. I can guarantee you that people are getting excited because the questions is a guarantee for me that they found it interesting and helpful. Now is the time for wrap up, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. The Great School Illusion, we were unboxing it today, piece by piece. And what we have found isn't failure, it's fatigue. Teachers aren't broken, they are breathless. Leaders aren't heartless, they are drowning in expectations. The illusion isn't that schools can't change, it is that they must look perfect while trying. That is not the correct strategy. Maybe the bravest thing a school can do in 2025 or in 2026 is to admit that we are learning too, and that would help. To every teacher watching, breathe. To every leader, listen. To every student, keep questioning us. And to our audience, this conversation does not end here. Join me next Tuesday when we unbox another illusion that's shaping education today. Until then, keep asking, keep feeling, and keep leading beyond the box. Thank you so much, and good evening.